Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So we are in the kitchen today, my favorite laboratory, to make something beautiful and delicious and super healthy. One of my favorite dishes is falafel, and because I prefer a raw vegan approach, I will be offering you a raw vegan recipe of falafel today. Let's get started. The first thing is I already made up a homemade batch of tahini. About 2 tablespoons of tahini is in here. You can buy it if you prefer not to make it, but basically all this is some sesame seed, some olive oil, a pinch of salt, a little bit of garlic, and some apple cider vinegar. You can choose to use lemon juice if you want, but that's what I blended up for the tahini. Sesame seeds are a wonderful source of calcium, so I love to incorporate them into my falafel recipes. We have here about half of a zucchini. I'm just going to chop up and add to the blender. So this is the base for the falafel. Some zucchini is going to go in. I had some garlic already in my tahini. I'm going to add one more clove, because I like garlic, into the falafel recipe. We also got some beautiful coriander seeds from our friend Richard Gambino that we brought over. So we have some coriander seeds. I'm going to add just a few to add a little bit of flavor. If you have cumin or if you prefer curry powder, that's great. I like the coriander seeds. I'm going to add about half of a small onion also. This is a recipe that I love to make as part of our Sunday dinners. I think I've shared with you guys that I usually prefer, during most of the week to just eat really simple dinners, fruits, maybe some unadorned greens. But it's nice to play in the kitchen and make really beautiful dishes. And especially if you're somebody who still has cravings for foods you used to love that are cooked or even not vegan, it's fun to play in the kitchen and make delicious raw vegan alternatives. And I love getting creative this way. So some onion goes in here. And then I'm going to add 2 small medjool dates. And I do this because I'm going to chop them up a little bit. If you have a good Vitamix, you probably don't need to do this. This is a pretty good blender, but we're finding it to be maybe not quite as strong as the Vitamix. The medjool dates, not too much, just 2 small ones. When you cook the chickpeas in falafel, when you have a cooked food recipe and then you fry it, it sort of caramelizes a bit the legumes. And that gives a kind of a more sweeter texture, very subtle, but this will give you that without the frying and the heating of the oils, which we're avoiding completely in this recipe. And now the most important ingredient is the chickpeas. So the chickpeas, here they are. Now we soaked these, and the reason we soak our legumes is that legumes, like chickpeas, other beans, have phytic acid, which can actually decrease your nutrient absorption in your body. So what we do is we soak them, which will help to greatly decrease the phytic acid content. We soaked them overnight. We soaked them actually longer than that, probably 24 hours. Then we threw away the water, and then we started the sprouting process. Now, the sprouting process didn't get very far, but you can maybe see a couple of little tails happening here. Ideally, I'll be honest with you, I would have sprouted this a little bit longer before we used it, but even this is enough. Sprouting is wonderful because it helps to actually increase the vitamin C content. And if you have iron-rich food like chickpeas or lentils that you sprout, you now have increased vitamin C content along with iron, which will help increase the iron absorption in your body. The two together work synergistically. You can probably tell that I'm not really big on measurements, so I'm going by feel. I'm probably putting in about half a cup. I'm gonna make a lot today, so I'm gonna put in about 2/3 a cup of chickpeas in here. I think that's good. A little bit more, for good measure. So here are the ingredients in there. I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of black pepper. Now what I would add to this if I had it would be paprika. I love the taste of paprika, ground paprika in this dish. I don't have that, so I'm just putting some black pepper. And I'm gonna do a titch of Himalayan salt, just a titch. You can avoid the salt completely if you don't want, or you can put a little bit of dulse or a little bit of miso paste to give the salty, mineral-rich flavor if you prefer. 1 second. So I just found a little bit of spicy red pepper. So instead of the ground paprika, I'm gonna add a little bit of this into the mix. A little bit of color, a little bit of flavor. We like it spicy. So I've added in the spicy. One more thing needs to go in. Ideally, you would put in the classic recipes to put in some lemon juice. For this amount, I would put in at least half a lemon, the juice of half a lemon, or maybe a whole lemon, depending on how tart you like it. It's a good flavor balancing also with the sweetness of the medjool dates that I added. I don't have lemon juice. I'm going to put a little bit of, this is homemade apple cider vinegar. I'm just putting about a splash in, probably about a tablespoon and a half. The reason I'm not really big that much on measurements is that I'll taste things and see how they do. And then I can then add and tweak things as I need. I've been talking to you, so I haven't had my usual music on, but I don't make Sunday dinner without music. So I'm gonna put some music on. And now we blend this. And here is the blended part. So this is everything that I showed you, really beautifully blended up. I'm gonna put that aside and now prepare things that I'm going to put in the food processor and then combine everything together. So for this part, I'm gonna start with this beautiful group of greens here. This is parsley. Parsley is, I consider, a powerhouse green that, apart from its really strong flavor, is really high in some very good vitamins, including vitamin A, vitamin K, and a lot of the B vitamins, which are great. The B vitamins are just, if you can think of them, I think of them as the nervine vitamin. It's the one that helps with your nervous system a lot. So B1, B6, B5. Not to mention just the wonderful smell of parsley. So I'm chopping this pretty finely, although I don't really have to do that because it's going to go in the food processor. So I've chopped that. That's one thing that's going in. I'm also going to put in 1 carrot. I'll chop this coarsely because I'll put this also in the food processor. I'm going to add a little bit more zucchini. And then I'm going to make a spice mix with some black pepper, and a titch, just a titch of cinnamon, like half a teaspoon maybe. And then this is a mix, a beautiful mix of, I think oregano, maybe some marjoram, some also dried parsley, greens around the house and some thyme. You can do whatever green herbs you prefer. I'm gonna just add a little bit of this into the spice mix. You can choose to add salt if you want to. I'm gonna skip the salt here. And one last thing that I'm putting into the food processor are these babies. These are activated sunflower seeds. So what we did to activate them is that we soaked raw sunflower seeds in water overnight, drained them, and then we dehydrated them lightly, which means that it was still raw. So we put it, I think, about 105 degrees and dehydrated them for 6 hours. And it takes off the phytic acid. Again, soaking and then drying these seeds will help with that. So we have sunflower seeds, and this is probably about half a cup or maybe almost 2/3 of a cup of that. Sunflower seeds are wonderful, and they are high in vitamin E. They're also high in both magnesium and manganese, so they're very good for the bones, for bone health. So we have all these beautiful, colorful, and healthy ingredients to make our falafel into a healthy meal. So we have our food processor. I'm just gonna add in the sunflower seeds. Spice mix, carrots, zucchini, we cannot forget music, special ingredients. And just also, I think it's really important as you make your food just to be in a state of joy and love. And music definitely helps me do that. And dancing, of course. So let's make this up. So here is the blend of the parsley and carrots, the ingredients I just showed you in the food processor. We're gonna add this. I'm gonna add some of it first. This is mixing time. It's a big mixing bowl. I have here, I've blended in a coffee grinder about 1/3 to half a cup of flax seeds. This will give us a little bit more dry ingredients so the mix is not too wet. I'm gonna add some of that right now. Flax seeds are, if you don't know it already, an amazing source of healthy fats, of your omega-3 fats. And most of us are not getting enough omega-3, we're getting too much omega-6. So helping to change that ratio up with more omega-3 is helpful. So I'm starting to blend this together. I'm adding little by little my blended chickpeas from the blender. It smells so good. Falafel is such, for me, like a really grounding and earthy dish. It feels always so satiating, and I think it's all of these beautiful flavors and spices, and so I find it to be a wonderful meal, especially when it starts getting cooler. And for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, that's what's happening. I think it looks so beautiful. But it might look beautiful. I'm going to do a little bit of a taste to make sure the amount of spices and the flavor balancing is okay. Wow. I think this batter, the way it is actually going to be perfect for our recipe. So let's go and I'll show you how I put it on the dehydrator sheets. So I'm going to put You can shape them into beautiful balls if you want. I'm going to just use my hands and make it kind of flatter. on the rounder side. Again, if they're drier, you can use your hands to shape them a little bit better. These are a little bit on the wetter side, so I'm just shaping it with my fingers on the dehydrator sheet. Okay, so here's the finished. Like I said, I made them a little flatter. So I'm going to put that into the dehydrator now, and I'm going to put it for between 110 and 112 for about 8 hours. And then I'll show you the finished product. So this is the finished product. These are the falafels. They only end up staying in the dehydrator for about 7 hours. I put the temperature to 120 for the first hour just to warm up the dehydrator. It does not cook them. And then turn it down to 112 degrees for the next 7 hours. And we have here the raw tahini homemade that I talked about before. Jade made some beautiful fermented vegetables, which are wonderful for probiotics, zucchini, sauerkraut. Here is a huge plate of greens we're going to be using as our wraps for the falafel. Instead of pita and flour, using these antioxidant, water-rich, natural foods, I think, is so much better, and you feel lighter afterwards. We have tomatoes and onions to dress up the wraps, and this is a homemade kind of garlic aioli, which has a secret ingredient, alfalfa greens. We use a little bit of this powder mixed with soaked cashews, apple cider vinegar, and a little bit of salt and a little bit of olive oil, and that's it. So I'm going to make a wrap so you can see what this looks like. I have a beautiful lettuce. I'm going to do 2 because I like to get as much greens in every bite as I can. I'm going to put a little bit of garlic aioli. And traditionally with falafel wraps, you do add a few fermented pickled vegetables. So I'll put a little bit of these beautiful homemade pickled fermented zucchini. I'm going to put my falafel in there. Put a little bit of tomatoes. Some onion, and let's try. I'm excited. Wow. Wow. Please try this recipe. I'm a falafel snob, and I think this is just as good, if not better, than the real thing. And I'd love for you to try it. It's so rich in flavor. The coriander, the cinnamon. I can't taste the specifics of it. Coriander seeds and cinnamon, by the way, are wonderful for blood sugar regulation. And they're also so good for digestion. In a complex meal like that, having those spices are great. But all I can feel right now is just the taste, and I feel like I'm traveling to the Middle East in the best way possible. I'm gonna take one more bite just to verify. And there's a moistness to them that I love. It's delicious. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Please subscribe for more videos. I'm happy to do more recipe videos that are plant foods, that are raw. Share the video with anyone who loves falafel and loves healthy, delicious food. And until the next time, much love to you. Take care.